Here's just a quick video on how to set up a freeze dryer. As you're cutting it out of the packaging, just make sure not to cut any of the hoses or scratch the machine. This is the quality control checklist. Feel free to look it over. And inside the accessories box, we've got the manual. Although freeze drying is simple, this is a scientific process. You want to make sure that you get familiar with the manual. Here we've got the Mylar bags. They are specially formulated for long-term fruit storage, so if you are going to buy other bags in the future, just make sure that they're 7mm Mylar, as well as the oxygen absorbers. And then we've got the pans and the silicone mats. Once you open the oxygen absorbers, you don't have a whole lot of time to work with them, so make sure you have a mason jar on hand to store them. And then here we've got the power cord as well as a screwdriver so you can take off panels. It is a Starbit, it's a T20. We didn't have it for this video, but the package also comes with an impulse sealer. And then here's the Allen key for changing the oil on the pump. Go to the back of the machine and plug it in, and if you had to drop a new plug, make sure to have an electrician do it. Otherwise, if you wire it up wrong, you could wire it in 220 instead of 110. I only say this because I've seen it happen, and running an appliance that's supposed to be 110 on 220 can be dangerous. And it voids the warranty. Next, you want to open it up and make sure that the tray rack is oriented correctly. A lot of times these can get shifted during transport and they'll end up upside down or at an angle. The heating pads are supposed to be stuck to the roof of every slot, so if you're looking down at the machine and you're seeing the heating pads, then you've probably got the tray rack upside down. Eventually you'll need to clean the tray rack, and in order to do that you'll have to disconnect this plug. Although the tray rack is dishwasher safe, we do recommend washing it by hand. We like to put the electrical up on top, just that way it doesn't get buried in the ice, but it is a waterproof connection, so it should be fine no matter what its orientation is. Reinstall the door gasket and make sure that it seals properly. The biggest culprit that we see for a bad door seal is actually the latch itself not being engaged properly. Make sure the latch is twisted all the way to the right, otherwise you may not get a good seal. Next, we're going to want to fill the pump up with oil, and we'll start by taking the oil mist filter off. The pump takes about 3/4 quart of oil. The oil that comes with it is just a break-in oil, so go ahead and just throw it away after the first load. But don't feel like you have to throw away oil every time. When you're changing the oil, go ahead and just filter it out or let the water settle out of it, and then once it goes clear, just put it right back in the pump. Think of the pump like a car engine, where the more often you change the oil, the longer it'll last. If you change the oil every time, the pump could realistically last 10 years, but if you never change the oil, it'll last about 6 months. When you're filling up the pump, make sure to fill it slowly so that way you don't get an air bubble and make a mess. You also want to fill it to about 1/3 of the way up the sight glass. Pretty much any vacuum pump oil that you find online is going to work, but one of the brands that we really like to use is called Black Gold. You can find it on Amazon, or any HVAC supply store is going to carry it. The average lifespan on an oil pump is somewhere between 4 and 6 years, but you can do a lot to extend that by just changing the oil more often rather than less often. The way that I think about it is that running the pump costs me about $1 a load. It's less than electricity and less than bags, but over the lifespan of the pump, you are going to want to be saving for a new pump. We get a lot of questions about oilless pumps, but as of 2024, we're just not recommending them. They need rebuilt after about 12 to 18 months, and this rebuild is not generally something that the homeowner can do, so at the moment, we're just not recommending them. Eventually, we'll be coming out with our own oilless pump that'll be easier to rebuild, but at the moment, we just don't have that. Here's what it should look like when the oil is full. Take this little red cap and tighten it all the way, and then open it either a half or a full turn. What this is the gas ballast valve, and it's going to help circulate water through the oil. Next is the lock nut that holds the hose on. You want to take this lock nut off and then install it on the hose, so that way once you install the hose on the barb, you can retighten the lock nut. This lock nut is more for convenience and isn't actually needed to make a good seal. So if you lose it or misplace it, you're still going to get great vacuum levels regardless. This is one of the reasons why we went with a silicone hose over other designs. It doesn't need to be tightened all the way, but just tight enough to hold the hose together, and then once you get that done, go and reinstall the oil mist filter. These are plastic threads, so just make sure not to over tighten them. Next, you'll want to plug the pump in as well as turn it on. Make sure that the pump is plugged into the side of the machine and not into the wall. You want to leave the pump in the on position, and with the pump plugged into the side of the machine will tell the pump to turn on and off. The on switch for the whole machine is in the back. From there, you should be ready for your first load. We'll do a separate video on that. Thanks for watching, and like always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.